NBA All-Star Game this Sunday.
Here's Curry behind the back, half-court heave on its way, and he hits it!
Coverage begins Sunday at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
All them dogs are counting down, about to put the anchor down. Hotty toddy, who's it gonna be? Cowbells and Swamp, the Aggies wrong. There's nothing like the SEC. The weekend's full of surprise.
Hit him with the flex.
From Williams Bikes to Death Valley. On the Finebaum show, Paul's on the roll. If he don't get the best of me, call Paul.
Alabama.
It's your show. Go ahead.
They'll make sense of it all.
You got a damn burn crappy attitude.
Needles up on Rocky Top. The Razorbacks are hard to stop. War Eagles soaring in the wind.
Let me talk, Danny.
Okay, go!
Tigers rocking in the zoo. Wildcats are grinning too. Talk about the tide that's rolling in. The weekend's full of surprises. From big upsets to robberies. On the Finebaum show, heads are gonna roll. If they don't get the best of me, we'll call Paul. He'll make sense of it all.
I really don't know where to go after that.
Don't take those calls.
I could give you my address and phone number if you're ever in this neck of the woods.
In my life, I've never had a phone call like that. And we welcome you back. Second half of the show is live and underway. We'll talk to Jerry Palm coming up here shortly about the impact of last night on the RPI, particularly for South Carolina and Arkansas. Big win for the Razorbacks. We're taking your phone calls. A lot of conversation. We chatted with John Bacon earlier. And let's go to Jerry in PA. How are you, Jerry?
Great, Paul. Good to hear from you, bud.
Thank you.
Paul, when I watch it, I'm a big Notre Dame fan, and that makes me want for football again, even though we have to wait. But just watching you, it makes me feel like college football. Just wanted to pass that on to you.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
Paul, a couple quick questions, and I'll hang up and listen to your answer. We got Mike Elko as defensive coordinator now from Wake Forest, and I was wondering what you thought about that. And if you know anything about Brandon Wimbush, who'll be quarterbacking this year, I got to know a few people that got to see him play in Jersey at the prep school he was at, and they're looking big things out of him. And just so you know, your
I hear good things about
that.
both. I am going to bring in Mark Kubiak here, who is a Notre Dame aficionado, to maybe comment a little bit more overall. I don't know if Mark is within range or not, but Mark, the Notre Dame question, what do you think about the new hires?
Well, it's make or break for Kelly. I mean, he replaced offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, strength and conditioning coach, so they have to do something right. And I think everybody on the staff now is under 42 years of age, which, I mean, for a coach who's been coaching for 25 years, that's really, really putting all your cards on the deck and hoping it's the right move.
Yeah, I think he looked himself in the mirror. I was reading, and he was really down on last year, and then, making the blame on everybody else but him. I hope he mans up to that, and.
Well, he did, but I think it was a little bit late.
Yeah, it was late, Paul.
I thought he did. I think he's lucky to have a job right now.
Yeah, very much so. I just hope he turns it around. And Paul, one more quick question: if you know any, if Malik Zaire, if he's made an announcement yet on where he's going. I heard Florida, and I heard North Carolina and Wisconsin was really high on his list, and I don't
believe he has made any indicator yet.
But I could just picture him with Wisconsin's offensive line, who's usually always big and strong and would really suit him. And, Paul, one quick question, a comment from you. I never hear much about Mike Bray's job at Notre Dame and what he's been doing, and we never really get the high recruits or the top recruits in the country, but if you could just give a quick synopsis on Mike Bray's job at Notre Dame basketball.
I think he's in good shape, and quite frankly, I think he's an underrated coach, Jerry. And Mike Bray is consistently good. I really like him. Thank you very much for the call. Appreciate it. Let's continue. Mark is in Terre Haute, Indiana. How are you, Mark?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Paul.
Thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to throw in a quick college football player who I found to be quite exciting back in the day was Marshall Faulk.
Oh, yeah.
I know he didn't play in the, most premier conference and all, but I think no matter where he would have been, I think he would have been phenomenal. The numbers he put up on those late night Saturday nights, you probably remember watching, even some Friday nights.
He was extraordinary.
It was amazing what he was doing. And, there was a call earlier about Herschel Walker, and I don't think I would really have taken anyone over Herschel in terms of just being a running back who just was able to carry a team. I know Georgia had talent, but at the same time, what he did and propelling them to that national championship was something else. So that's my call.
Thank you. Glad to hear from you. Let's continue with more phone calls. And Homer is in in Minden, Louisiana. Hello, Homer.
Why, hello, Brother Paul. Is this you?
Good to hear from you.
Yeah, I hadn't been feeling well, and that
What's wrong, Homer?
Well, your buddy Jim from Tuscaloosa called in the other day and called you a racist and a hypocrite, and I
tell you what, if Jim calls me a name, I consider it a compliment.
Okay. Look, man, that was just rude. That was totally rude.
Well, you know what? I can no longer take anything Jim says seriously or personally because all the guy ever does is scream.
Oh, I mean, I could not understand how you could just sit there. And I don't put you on the computer because I don't know how to do it yet. And so I have to watch on the television.
No, that's great.
Well, that reminds me, I got a call from New Orleans Saturday night.
And?
I got my fingers crossed. Anyway, one of my baseball players, Dustin Logan, called me up in the middle of the night, but I guess time's relative in the French Quarter. And he said, I was at work the other day, and this guy came up to me and said, do you know somebody named Homer, from Minden? And,
yeah.
And he said, no, because Dustin knows me as Howard. And he said, man, he was on the Paul Finebaum show, and I've done heard him 3 times, and I can't ever get through. And so Dustin, realized it took him a while. He called people, and they said, well, that's Howard's first name. And anyway, he asked me, Howard, I listened to every one of them. He said, you've never asked him a question yet. And I said, Dustin, I have tried and tried. But, okay, let's go back. I just went off on a tangent. That guy was just talking about Marshall Faulk. A long time ago, well, not a long time ago because I hadn't been calling you very long, I wanted to ask you who is the best running back that you ever saw live with your eyeballs.
Herschel Walker.
Well, see, Herschel Walker came up, and I knew, that guy, y'all were talking about Herschel. The best running back I ever saw was Marshall Faulk.
He was good.
They were playing UCLA in San Diego, and, I'd heard of the guy. Didn't know anything about him. Knew nobody, in the SEC or Louisiana wanted him, and just happened to be one of the coaches at San Diego State was from New Orleans and got the head coach to look at some film, and boom. That's how Marshall Faulk even got to play. But my question, and I have a question because Dustin gave me one to ask you.
Shoot.
What about the LSU offense?
Homer, thanks. I expect it to be a lot better with Matt Canada. I really do. Thank you for the call. Tom in Michigan is up next. Hey, Tom.
Hey, how's it going?
Great, thank you.
I just call to let you know that all Michigan fans aren't that bad. Sure, we probably have our Archies and our Lances and our Darrells floating around out here, but majority of them are real good. I wore the maize and blue and wore the big block M for 50-plus years.
Wow.
And I don't recall running into people like that.
You know, I wonder, Tom, if it's not a new breed of Michigan fans in the social media world who really are more Harbaugh fans. They're not, because you're right, O-line Michigan fans, we're talking about in Bo's day and even prior to that, I mean, they were proud of their school. And I've never said Michigan isn't a great academic institution, not as great as Michigan people think it is, but it's still great.
It's a good institution, but some of them have got the idea that we might be holier than thou, and it does rub people the wrong way. But the majority of the Michigan fans are good people. I go all the way back to the days when Bo and Woody used to knock heads with each other, and those were the good days of Michigan football.
Days. No doubt.
This coming year, if Michigan goes 6-6, I'll be surprised because they don't have too much left from last year's team.
Well, I think you're a little low, but Tom, thank you for the call. I do appreciate it. We have plenty more time to go, more time for you to get in at 855-242-7285. Jerry Palm will join us at the bottom of the hour to give us his latest bracketology. We're coming right back. Welcome back. Glad you're with us here on a Thursday afternoon. Mark is in Detroit. Mark, thank you.
Hey, how you doing, Paul? This is the fake news guy from yesterday. Just wanted to let you know it's above freezing today.
Oh, good. So glad to hear it.
But yeah, with the Michigan, I'm from Michigan, but I'm a Buckeye fan, and all the Michigan fans, they are snobs, they are stuck up, and I can't stand them.
Well, that's certainly a succinct way of describing. Why not?
Because they just think they're better than everybody.
That they do.
Kind of like the SEC thinks they're better than the Big Ten. When actually, the Big Ten is actually better than the SEC as of right now.
By the way, in what way is the Big Ten better than the SEC?
Okay, well, we'll go with the playoffs. Both SEC and Big Ten had a playoff team. All right, now let's go down with the bowl games. Who is the second best?
I know all that. I don't need somebody to regurgitate sports agate to me. I'm just trying to get an explanation overall from you why the Big Ten is better.
Talent.
I tell you what. Let me advise you, Mark, to watch the NFL draft this year and see if you can come back at me with that line.
And the best O-line is from Alabama. I'll give you that, but he's projected like 20th or something.
You're back to the fake news again.
No, he's projected around 20s. He's in the 20s. That's the highest ranked offensive lineman. Alabama's offensive tackle.
Okay.
Yep, and then that's like the.
Have you looked at the defensive linemen, defensive ends? You think we'll see running back? You think we'll see a few of those in the linebackers? You think we'll see a few of those in the first round?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay.
I'm not disputing that fact. Actually, my good old Detroit Lions are projected to draft Alabama's linebacker.
Okay. Well, listen. Thanks for the information, Jeff in Ohio. Hello, Jeff.
How you doing, Paul?
Excellent. How are you?
Hey, man, I just got to throw you a fist bump and a thank you for occupying the time of these Michigan fans. Usually we've got to deal with them all this time of the year, but they're full bore on you, my man.
And Urban owes me some sponge cake or something for all the time, all the abuse I've had to take from the Michiganders.
Yeah, I tell you what, now you know what we go through 24/7, my man. But you nailed it. These fans up there in Michigan, they're arrogant, delusional, and right now, if we figure for the past, 15 years, they're paranoid. You're right. It's the young fans. It's the younger fan base. Just think about it, man. They've had to grow up with their parents and their grandparents talking about the the great program of Michigan, the all-time winning program, and they haven't seen it. I mean, they've gone through Brady Hoke, Rodriguez. They've got a little bit of daylight now with their boy Harbaugh, and he just fuels the fire.
And by the way, Jeff, the most obvious thing for a young fan is they've had to live in an Ohio State era.
Exactly, where we've dominated them. I mean, dominated them. In their house, we've gone up there and just spanked them. I mean, just 2 years ago. And how many times that they haven't even been competitive? So that's the thing. And I tell you what, I was at the Shoe in November, and it played out beautifully because I was sitting in the first row of the upper deck behind the Michigan bench. And I know on TV when you watch this game, they don't show the coaches nonstop. But Harbaugh was a jerk the whole game.
Oh, yeah, of course
I mean, if the fans are going to be mad, and that's the problem, they've got to realize they've got this coach that at any time could go off. It burned them in that game. They were running their mouth in the stadium.
Jeff, let's face the facts. He is a child.
Exactly. He's never grown up. He was that way as a player. He ran his mouth all the time as a player at Michigan. He got lucky on his bet. He threw the bomb at the end of the game. And the horseshoe. I was at that game too when he hit the wide receiver down the sideline, and he won his little statement, his arrogant statement before the game. But he's ramped up these Michigan fans to a whole nother level, so they think they can run their mouth. And what they are, they're the epitome of wanting to tell you how great they are before they've ever done anything, which are the worst fans ever. If they go out and win. I mean, Ohio State, we got our arrogant fans. Everybody likes to run their mouth, like the Bama fans, everybody. But when you've won, it's fun because you can go back and forth with some banner. Michigan fans just come off as abrasive, and they want.
No, I said this, Jeff. I think it was on Mike and Mike in December. I made a statement that Michigan has won one half of a national championship in the last 70 years, and I've never gotten more reaction. I mean, they came after me like I had desecrated the program. I just told the truth.
Right. We've had our down periods here too. I mean, we went through a dry spell. We've only got the one title in so many years, and I know that's the back and forth with the SEC. I get it. We got pounded by the SEC. We had to take it. But at least we were in the mix and we were in the hunt when we had our downtime. They've gone through so many years. Like I say, I think their fan base, the young fans, have never seen what they've heard about from generations behind them. And the worst, Paul, are the Michigan fans that live down here in Columbus.
Ooh.
You ought to see all the paraphernalia they've got on their cars. Their colors are pretty bright and bold and everything. It's just hilarious. They want to make sure they're a Michigan fan, and they're bold enough to be here in Columbus.
Well, be well, Jeff.
All right, but
if that worm ever turns, I feel for you.
For us, my man.
Okay, thanks so much. Always a pleasure. Really good to chat with you. You're a cool guy. Always enjoy the conversation. Yeah. Carl is up next in Tennessee. How are you, Carl?
I'm fine, Paul. And John and Mark, I'd like to say hi to y'all, too.
Thank you.
I know y'all took a beat down over that Jalen Hurts deal yesterday, but if you were to ask all the teams, not just in the SEC, who would love to have him for a quarterback, that you would not believe how many people would love to have him for a quarterback. I'm a Vols fan.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see what Nick Saban does with his offensive coordinator, and we'll see if Nick Saban loves having him as a quarterback based on the person he hires.
Well, it could be a mistake to let somebody of a true talent of an 18, 19-year-old boy go and them not give him another chance.
Well, he'll definitely get a chance. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just suggesting a possible shift in philosophy, but we will see soon.
Well, tell people to tweet in and say how many people they'd like to have him for their quarterback.
Yeah, I'll ask. I'm sure we'll get a lot of takers. Phil is up next. How are you, Phil?
Hey, I'm good, Paul.
Excellent.
I was just curious about old Jalen Hurts. What's the chances on them sending him to a Manning camp or something like that?
I don't think Jalen Hurts needs a Manning camp. I think he just needs experience and more time. He is 18 years old. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Bo in Georgia next. How are you, Bo?
Hey, Paul, what's going on?
How are you? Good to hear from you.
You know, it helps me immeasurably, mentally and emotionally, to listen to some of these coops that come on your show. Listen, I'm a Georgia fan, have been since the 1960s, except for number 34, we never got nothing done. We're Loserville, but I'll still pull for the University of Georgia, and that's it.
Well, that's good. I appreciate that very much. Matt in Gadsden, Alabama is up next.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Okay, thank you.
Look, this is about Alabama basketball, but while we're on the talk of Nick Saban, starting in my childhood, you know, 8A games, obviously, you're familiar with that. They didn't even open up one side of the stadium. Nick Saban come in, that first year was the first time in history that stadium's ever been opened up.
90,000,
Speaking of that, do you think Avery Johnson is going to be able to do the same thing with Alabama athletics and basketball?
I don't know the answer to that. I know in 2 years he has brought a lot of the enthusiasm back. And I mean, you compare that to the last two years of Mark Gottfried and the entire tenure of Anthony Grant. So I mean, I think he hasn't sealed the deal yet, but I think the program has a pulse, which it didn't have.
I think the main thing with Anthony Grant was really recruiting, and the college wasn't giving him enough money to be able to do that, which it seems like now the money's rolling in, obviously, from the football to athletics, and hopefully they're filtering that over to basketball. But I think everybody in the State's wanting to see Avery Johnson go as far as Nick Saban and let us get a Elite Eight appearance at least. You know? Well,
listen, I think he's very capable of doing it, Matt. I like Avery a lot. To me, his enthusiasm is infectious, and that's what you need. I mean, in Alabama right now, at the two SEC schools, I mean, you have two dynamic coaches, which has not been the case for a long time. Jerry Palm will give us his take on the college basketball season as we head for the final 3 weeks of the regular season, what the NCAA field looks like today, plus more of your phone calls right here on the program. Glad you're with us. Jerry Palm, CBS Sports, always must-hear conversation this time of the year. Jerry, I appreciate your time. We were talking about South Carolina and Arkansas. Let me get your thoughts on South Carolina. It feels like they're burning up a lot of goodwill with this committee right now. What do you think?
I agree. They've played themselves down into the middle of the bracket, maybe like in an 8-9 game type of situation with, they lose at home to Alabama, and then they lose at home to Arkansas, and they lost at home earlier to Clemson. So that's 3 home losses to teams that are, at or near the bottom of the bracket or off the bracket entirely. And, you got to defend your home court a little bit better than that. And this is a one-hit wonder kind of team. They beat Florida. And outside of that, maybe a bubble team or two like Michigan, but they don't have the kind of quality wins to withstand a big slide and still have a good position in the bracket.
On the other hand, Arkansas has been limping lately, losing at Missouri, really struggling. A lot of pundits have said that was just a significant win last night. Certainly it helps, but assess the Razorbacks situation right now.
Yeah, I mean, they were not a team that belonged in the bracket until they won at South Carolina last night. That's a good road win. Their first win over a team of any significance at all. Their second best win is Texas Arlington. So, Arkansas still got work to do. They're still trying to make up. You mentioned the loss to Missouri, the loss to Vanderbilt that followed it at home.
Right.
Where they weren't even competitive in that game is almost as bad. And so they really needed something to give them a spark. But for Arkansas, now they need to be consistent and to take care of some business. They need to handle the teams in this league that they should be beating. If they can do that, there'll probably be a spot for them in the bracket, but they've got to do that, and they haven't shown.
So you don't think they're a sure thing based on that win last night?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not a sure thing. But they'll probably be in the bracket I do tomorrow.
Now, when a team is inconsistent like that and somehow gets in, what is the feeling from the committee? I mean, certainly you don't want to put them in a prime position because they have been inconsistent. Would that be fair? Yeah, sure. I mean, but the bottom of the bracket is filled with inconsistent teams. That's why they're at the bottom of the bracket. Some are better or worse than others, but they are. Arkansas's got a nice record and not a whole lot to back it up. I mean, it's not. They're not like a 4-loss team. They've got 9 or 10, but it's still the kind of a team that they're not reliable. That's why they are near the bottom of the bracket and not much higher up. So we mentioned obviously the SEC. Right now, will you have 4 teams from the SEC in the bracket? We're talking about Kentucky, South Carolina, Florida, and Arkansas. Correct. In the one that I post tomorrow, those 4 teams will be in it. After that, Georgia has an opportunity Saturday against Kentucky. They've let a lot of good opportunities slip away. Tennessee seems to be going in the wrong direction. Alabama won last night, but still big opportunity missed against Kentucky. Where else is this league right now, in or out of your bracket? I don't. Probably the next closest team for me is Mississippi, but I don't really consider any of these other teams to be, anything to get all excited about. Mississippi needs, a big win of some sort. The problem is it's hard to resume build in the SEC when all you can really do is beat Kentucky, Florida, or South Carolina to get the kind of win that's even going to get the committee's attention. And if South Carolina keeps trying to play the rest of the league into the tournament, that might not even be a great win anymore. So it's just really hard to find the kinds of wins. Like Mississippi, they've got South Carolina at home the last game of the regular season. They can't afford to lose any of the games before that. And then they've got to win that one too. So the margin for error for these teams in the middle of the SEC, once you get past those top 3, is just really small because you can't make up for a bad day in this league. Until now, no one has really played better than Florida, but they took a major hit this week. Talk about the Gators. Yeah, well, Florida's resume, the committee had them as a 3 on Saturday, and I have to say that was one of the more surprising results because other than the win over Kentucky at home, which obviously they were pretty dominant in that game, they also don't have a lot of – they've beaten some bubble teams, but not much else. They have a home loss to Vanderbilt, which is the worst loss that any of the teams in the top 12 of that bracket had. Florida's a nice team. They've played a good schedule. I think we're being rewarded for having played a good schedule and for the win over Kentucky. But their profile looks a lot more like Purdue, who wasn't in that top 16, than it looks like Arizona, who's on that 3 line with them. Your assessment of the Kentucky Wildcats? Yeah, Kentucky, to me, has the best of the resumes and clearly the best overall talent in this league. And it's still going to be dangerous when they get to the tournament, but their youth shows at times. But they beat, both North and South Carolina. Really just the loss at Tennessee is the only head-scratcher. They don't look to be as much of a threat to win the whole thing as other teams that Coach Cal has had. But this is a team that has certainly shown, some capability to beat at least a team the caliber of North Carolina, which is a really good team. I don't know that they're consistent enough against that higher-level opposition to make a Final Four run, but I wouldn't rule them out. Okay, let me try to make sense out of all this. You mentioned Ole Miss as the next team in the SEC after the 4 we mentioned, which is Arkansas, South Carolina, Kentucky, and Florida. Assess Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. Where are they, and what chance do they have? Well, Tennessee's basically a 500 team. They've got to get to 4 games above 500 before you can even really think about them, and that means winning, like 3 games in a row, the third of which would be at South Carolina, which would obviously be huge for them. The win over Kentucky is nice, but it's one big hit in like 9 or 10 tries, and that's just not going to be good enough. Alabama's a team that they've got the win at South Carolina, which was really nice. Just too many losses right now, and they're going to need to win a few in a row. But Alabama's set up for their schedule, but they basically need to win out. I mean, that's the thing with these teams is they pretty much need to win out. Georgia is like 14-11. If you're not 4 games above 500, you've got pretty much zero chance of making the tournament. So they've got to win
2 in a row just to get to the point where you've got a record that you can consider, and that first one's Kentucky. So, these teams, they just don't have enough wins to even consider them really as tournament teams, and they need to get hot just to put up a good enough record for the committee to look at them.
Jerry, listen, we're down here, so a lot of people that we talk to about the SEC look at it and say they think this league is better. It's getting better all the time. It's much better. It's deeper. You're in a different part of the country. How do you see the SEC?
About the same as it's been the last couple of years. Kentucky, maybe one other team. This year, I guess, really 2 other teams, and then a middle of the pack that isn't quite ready for prime time yet.
Ask a straight question, you got a straight answer. Jerry Palm from CBS Sports. Jerry, we'll be in touch over the next few weeks. Thank you, as always, for your time.
All right, thanks, Paul.
Good. Jerry Palm, man who does not mince words. We will take a break. More of your phone calls at 855-242-7285. It's all yours the rest of the way. We're coming right back. Welcome back. Ed is calling next as we continue on this Thursday afternoon. Ed is in South Carolina. Hello, Ed.
How you doing, Paul?
Well, thank you.
It's a beautiful day in South. It's going to be a great golf weekend in South Carolina.
That's what I hear.
It's absolutely 75, whatever. Hey, I want to tell you, I used to live in the Columbus, Ohio area, okay? And in 1986, a friend and I made a bet, Big Ten versus SEC, okay? And right now, I'm up $1,180 on him. And I think that pretty much says the SEC versus Big Ten,
That's good money.
They just want.
You guys ever pay up, or that bet just keeps rolling?
No, we pay up, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he pays up. I don't have to.
You don't have to pay up.
No, I think that pretty much defines the Big Ten versus SEC,
Well, I'll tell you what, you have a good time on the golf course this weekend. Sounds like fun to me. How about Richard in Louisiana? Hello, Richard.
Hey, Paul, I was calling. I was wondering if you heard anything about where Brandon Harris might land.
I don't think Brandon has given too many indications. At least I haven't heard them.
Right. Anyway, and I guess the other question, do you think Edlin's long-term? I know he's got another year down there, but I know he recruited pretty well too. But I think that's the one thing. I mean, if we got to go 90 yards, I think
he's I think he's a serviceable quarterback, but
right.
I wouldn't bet the rent money on him, would you?
Right. And, I always thought Harris. I mean, I don't know.
I thought Harris had potential. I just think he was mismanaged by the dynamic duo in charge.
Right, and because I know high school was not college level, but you just don't get down there and all of a sudden, forget how to throw the ball,
Well,
and,
I mean, listen, I don't know what I think. Les Miles just lost his way, and I don't know really to this day. I don't know whether it was Cam Cameron's fault or Les's fault, but ultimately Les is the head coach.
Right, and like you say, I guess at the end of the story. I mean, he got pulled, and his confidence was just. I mean,
he got shattered,
it was gone,
and that was wrong. And again, I'd be shattered too if I had as dysfunctional a game plan.
Oh yeah.
As he put in that Wisconsin game. Hey, thank you very much. Will is up next in Mississippi. Will, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, Brandon lost his confidence. That was all that was. But you're right, mismanagement played a big role. But do you think the LSU basketball men's team is on the bubble?
They're on the bubble of the worst season in LSU history. That's what they're on the bubble of.
It is embarrassing. I can't even watch them anymore because that whole team, it's like even the coach quit coaching, man. It's pretty bad. But I didn't want to talk about my boys because it's like kicking a
about time to give Coach Jones a vote of confidence, isn't it?
He's just got to go, man. We love him, but it's time for him to move on. Have you ever heard of this, Chad Kelly, the Combine rescinding an invite?
No.
I mean, it must have been something else happened, huh?
Yeah, I have not heard that story. What happened?
No, I haven't heard. I just know that they actually rescinded his invite, and I don't. That usually would indicate that something else has happened.
Yeah, no, I really I hate to answer that without knowing any more. I do not know the bottom of that story, but I'll tell you what. Well, I will try to find out. Roy in Tennessee is up next. Good afternoon, Roy.
Good afternoon. I'd like to ask you on the short list for offensive coordinator at Bama, is T. Martin on the list?
No, I haven't heard T's name mentioned.
Well, he's out there on the West Coast for long enough to figure that out.
Well,
and
if he's going to get the job, it will be a mystery to me. I have not heard that.
Okay. One more thing. What happened to Bobby in Birmingham?
I do not know the answer to that. Bobby called right before the national championship game, predicting Alabama would destroy Clemson, and that was 5.5 weeks ago. He has not called back since. I hope he's healthy.
Well, I really enjoyed his conversation.
Yeah, I've never known Bobby. Bobby's an Army vet. He's a brave man. He's overcome a lot in his career and his life, health issues included. It's not normal that Bobby would just tuck and run like a coward and not to face the music. So I don't know what to say other than I haven't heard anything to the contrary. So draw your own conclusions on that one. Thank you for the call. Terrence is up next in Jacksonville. Hello, Terrence. Good afternoon to you.
Hey, what's going on, Paul? I hadn't spoken with you in a while. Been since the Tennessee game that I spoke with you last.
Glad you made it in.
Quick question. Yeah, man, quick question. Just on college football, when it comes down to recruiting, what is your personal opinion when it comes to stars? And I asked you that about, the 4-star, 5-star. I asked you that because, each and every year, I think I spoke on this last time, but each and every year, going into the season is always a certain team, I guess, based on how strong their recruit has, been in the previous years, is based on how well they're projected to do, in the season. What I mean by that is Georgia, Tennessee, a lot of these teams are always projected to be, the best or to win or to go, further than what they actually do when the season starts. So like I said, back to going to the stars, is it because of the stars and because of the recruiting? Are these teams projected to do this well?
Well, listen, I think there are two different issues here. The stars really encompass what the experts have seen in high school and what they project. But usually when you're projecting a college team, you're looking at more than that. I mean, that has that does play a role. But once they get there, once they're in the system, their high school career does not make any difference at all. It's what they do on that team in practice. And what they're projected to do. So I think we're talking about two different things here.
Okay. Well, like I said, because I just, I'm a Gator fan, of course, and I just always kind of get a little riled up when I hear these teams and they're projected to go so far. And then we're also the team that always does what no one's expecting us to do. I know we've had a little trouble offensively, and I know to the eye that, a lot of recruits probably look at that. They probably look at the offense and say, well, I don't know about going to this school because they're just not doing that well. So that's why I just was trying to get
I think Florida, one thing about Florida, even during down years, Florida fans have a healthy opinion of themselves really since Spurrier resurrected this program. And you can't keep Florida down. There's too many things going for this school, and that's why even now, as Jim McElwain enters his third season, there's still some grumbling going on because they haven't won a title yet. But I'll never forget being in Florida last November. It came. I was down there the week after the Arkansas loss, and fans were downright angry. But that's good. You want that.
But you know what? I'm not one of those angry fans that just, after a couple seasons to get mad. I still look at the positive. I still look at the fact because of poor quarterback play, we still made it to the SEC.
Well, you know, Terrence, not to interrupt, but we're out of time. I think McElwain is a great football coach, so I have no concern or doubt he'll bring this program.
Hey, baseball fans, this is Buster Olney. Mark your calendars because the daily edition of the Baseball Tonight podcast returns on Tuesday, February 21st. Make sure you subscribe to the show now in the Listen tab of the ESPN app.
Hey, basketball fans, I'm George Sedano on the latest NBA Lockdown podcast. The full cast today. Amin Al-Hassan, Cassidy Hubbard, Kevin Pelton, and I talked to Pablo Torre about his LeBron piece, Adam Schefter about his new role as an NBA sideline reporter, and Draymond's comments.
The NBA All-Star Game this Sunday.
Here's Curry behind the back, half-court heave on its way, and he hits it!
Coverage begins Sunday at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.